Hello, it's Einar in Unity Center, and we're going to have one more interview with Raphael Kleiman. We just had an interview with you. I told about everything you'll be doing. Is lots of education and has lots of new people he is in contact with professors in Germany, especially, I think. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to talk about today is light. And it's I read an article. It's so many new things that light can do, and how important light is in our lives, in healing, and bad light, good light, and all these things. And Raphael is going to tell us a little bit about that today. So what we can start up with has to be a little bit simple. Your main goal is to educate people in what light really is for our bodies, for our soul and things. Can you say a little bit about make it easy?
Well, to make it easy with the light is in a way impossible. Einstein said when he was getting really old, he said, for the rest of my life I'm going to ponder about what light really is. So anybody who tells you, I know what light is, don't trust them. They don't know. And I don't know either.
No.
And the fascinating thing about light is that it is really at the edge of matter and of consciousness. It's really there where matter ends to exist in a way that we can grab it and know it, and at the same time it's already part of our consciousness. And the interesting thing in the past years is that we have so many new discoveries about what light is doing in the body. There's so many parts in the body where we're now realizing, oh, there's light there. The DNA is emitting light. The mitochondria are emitting light. We know that the cells are communicating with light. And that's a fascinating fact, that every living organism radiates light, because the cells in the body, be it a plant or an animal or a human being, communicates with light.
I need to. Is that the main thing we are looking for? If we're looking for, we call it the Photopheresis.
Okay.
Is that light also? Just to put things in perspective?
Yeah.
What's Photopheresis in English?
The transmission of thoughts.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Mental communication.
Yes.
That's a fascinating question, and to be honest, I'm not sure about the answer. For example, you know that in just a month we are going to have a major conference in Oslo. The International Light Association is coming to Norway for the first time, and
that's you can tell them.
Yes.
Okay, it's 13th and 15th of May.
Yeah, and also then we have for the first time the UNESCO Day of Light. It's worldwide for the first time, and here in Oslo we have taken the initiative to celebrate it in a special way in the House of Literature and other places. And there Dr. Jim Oshman is having a seminar about the light in the body, biophotons, and light and consciousness. And he is a person who would say, yes, exactly, what we know as the transmission of thoughts is actually a transmission of light. Light is the mediator, the medium of our consciousness, and we can even measure it. It has this side that you kind of touch from the inside, which is consciousness. It has the part that you touch upon from the outside with very special measuring devices that can detect biophotons. Now, other people would say, no, light is consciousness is still something different from light. It's not the same, but light shows you that consciousness is there. But consciousness is independent from light. And I don't want to give the answer on that, but there's a very interesting connection there between light and consciousness, that's for sure.
Is that what we have been waiting for? And everybody says they don't believe in alternative medicine, they don't believe in life after death or something, and now they're starting to have equipment to measure
Yes.
these things, so you can see when the healer is healing. You
Yes.
see what's happening and things like that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, one example. There was Professor Pop. He made experiments with light and consciousness. Actually, to be honest, or to be sincere, I have to say that the first research about light and life was done in Russia in the 1920s. That's where a Russian biologist discovered that a plant that is sprouting is emitting light, and he was so fascinated by that, and he realized obviously all living things emit light. Light is the expression of life in a way, and that research was forgotten. The Soviet Union, Bolshevism, materialism, and then in the 70s, Professor Pop took that research again, and by now we had more advanced equipment, so he was able to do measurements which were very revealing about this light. And from measuring plants, for example, to realize that an organically grown tomato has a different light from...
Okay.
Yes, of course. And it's not only that it has more light, but it's also the quality of light. It has a more harmonious light. So from doing that kind of research on organisms, he then went on to check what does light do in healing, or what does healing do with light.
Yeah.
And so he invited a number of healers and put them in a black box, totally light protected, and measured what light comes out from the hand of a healer. And lo and behold, there's a lot of light that comes out. And different healers had different abilities and different techniques. I happen to be a good friend with one of these healers who was there, and it was measured, and I could show you the results. It's all written there and quantifiable. He was able then to, like this, turn on the light in the hands and emit a huge amount of light, and he could take it back, you know. And the hypothesis that Professor Pop then would formulate is that the healer works with light that goes in resonance with the light of the person to be healed, and so to say, smitte, what is that again in English? So to say, the healing is contagious.
Okay.
The coherence, the harmony in the light of the healer then stimulates the tissue that is not harmonious in the person to be healed. Like, we all have light, but the question is it harmonious or not? Is it well structured or not?
So
and
if you're sick, you're not harmonious.
Exactly.
So the healer can put some harmony into your light.
Yes, but you cannot kind of force a harmony on somebody. It needs to be in resonance with the inner harmony. So a good healer will always kind of listen into the being, the personality, the state of consciousness of the person to be healed, and out of that pick up what is needed. He will in a way help him to find back to himself. And sometimes disease is actually a healing crisis. We have developed in a certain way, and then our biography is at a point where something needs to happen. You know, I mean, we have that. We go through this crisis, and the crisis is actually good, because the crisis tells you, or your higher consciousness really tells you, this was enough now. You need to change your job, or you need a new partner, or you need to change something with your inner life. You need to meditate, or whatever, right? And so you get into a crisis, and maybe your body even needs to help to give you some really manifest physical disease as well. So you are in this turmoil, in this chaos of your whole body, and that also reflects then in the light. And then the healer can pick up, and maybe he has the ability also to do what I would call biographical healing. He would then be able to read what the higher consciousness and the higher self is telling, where it wants to go.
Okay.
And so it can help this person to see where he really wants it, kind of open the way. But physically speaking, what Pop was measuring, it is really true. It would then also be possible that the light from the hand of the healer goes in resonance and it picks up the light that is chaotic of this, let's say, this chronic inflammation in the intestines or so, and it would, so to say, instruct the intestines to come back to a harmonious state.
Yeah, then again you have to, the patient has to work on himself also, so
Exactly.
so this inflammation doesn't come
Yes.
back again.
Exactly. And that's, for example, I mean, we had an interview about the mistletoe flower essences. That's why they are very helpful in a broader healing context, because in order to avoid that somebody gets dependent on an outer healing and just goes to a healer and again and again and kind of loses self-responsibility, the flower essences here of the mistletoe, they help you to connect to your own higher knowledge, which is always there. The question is it up there, or are you able to connect to it, to bring it into your everyday consciousness and make the right decisions and integrate it? And that's what the flower then can help you, because it has this cosmic connection and this resonance with your inner knowing.
What's the difference between light and flower essences?
Well, I would say that this is actually essentially light, because this here is not a preparation of any substance. It's a flower that we have put into a bowl with water, good spring water, in the sunshine. And the sunlight has then helped that essence, that information, that quality of the flower to go into the water.
Okay.
And then we take the flower out again and we have the water. So it was just a little visit, so to say, of that flower in the water, and chemically speaking you have just water, but it's water that has had a certain
the essence of the flower.
The essence of the flower,
Yeah.
but the sunlight was what imprinted that essence into the water.
So you have sun in a bottle.
Exactly. Yes.
And one other thing I was thinking about, Reichelt made this light machine.
Mm-hmm.
You heard about it?
No.
Reichelt
Right.
was a guy, one of our therapists. He bought this old machine.
Yeah.
Reichelt made a machine that put out light.
Yeah. Yeah.
That did lots of healing.
Okay.
I think that was something also that we're talking about. Instead of the healer doing it, you have a machine that sends out crystal coherent light and does the healing.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic. I mean, one, there is by definition no machine that can emit biophotons, because biophotons means living light particles, and only living organisms can emit living light particles. So you can have light machines, and on that conference, for example, you will see a dozen of different really interesting technologies. Through colored light you can stimulate different parts of the body, and that's something that you can look at both esoterically with the chakra colors, but also very physically. There's people at the University of Oslo who are doing interesting research on colored light therapy and so forth. So that's one thing. But healing light in the way that we were talking about healing, that's something that stimulates self-healing. And for me, all healing must be self-healing. That cannot be done by a machine, because you would have to have a machine that senses and knows what is coming from the inside on all the levels, from the physical to the spiritual, and that cannot be done by a machine.
Okay. But something that can be done by a machine.
Yes.
I read about something in the article about you can a light machine can put vitamins into you.
Well, there's this concept of photopheresis. So that means that light can be a carrier of information, and that is actually something that we all use without maybe always thinking about it. What does a CD player do? You know, I mean, it's a laser beam that picks up the information that is on the CD. There's places where loads of information, very condensed, are carried by a laser beam. That's normal today. So what is strange about the thought that you can do a medical treatment with a laser beam, and you just put something on that laser beam as a carrier and bring it into the patient, and that seems to work. There's really good experiences about that, both with natural medicine, homeopathy. You can even just take a laser pointer, these green light pointers that you use for a PowerPoint presentation. Just take that one and play with it, and you will have interesting effects. You can take it, I should have taken one with me. You can take it to your teeth, and you will see that the teeth glow up because the teeth are conductors of light. And that's also something that we know from natural medicine and from Chinese medicine, that the meridians go through the teeth. And whatever you do to a teeth then goes through the body and has effects very different places in the body. So in the moment you stimulate, let's say, this tooth here with that green laser, that is a healing stimulus.
Yeah, but is that a good light?
It is a coherent light. It is a very structured light. You see, normal light that we have, everyday light, is diffuse.
But from the sun also?
From the sun it comes in a structured way, but then it hits the atmosphere of the earth, and all the clouds and all the dust particles in the air, they will let the light go in all directions. So when it arrives here, then we have this very neutral background lighting, which is good, because if we had laser beams on us, so to say, we would be hit with it. It would just be too strong. It would be too much information. In a way, the world is done in a very intelligent way here, because we have this neutral background light, and that lets us be free to develop our own light of consciousness. Yes. Whereas when we use a laser, then we have this highly structured light which is able to carry very specific information in the computer, in the CD player, or in medicine. And just by taking a little bottle of homeopathy, you let that laser beam go through that bottle and point it on your body will respond immediately, because that information of the homeopathy bottle is then carried to you, which is wonderful, because now we're having so much trouble with the pharmaceutical industry trying to push against homeopathy and natural remedies and so forth, and many places they want to keep you from doing it, but it is still allowed to use a laser. Even if you're not a doctor, you can use a laser and apply homeopathy, and sometimes it's even more effective, because the body depends a little on which type of character and situation and so forth, but in many situations applying a remedy via light is more effective, has more direct, spontaneous reaction than taking it under your tongue, because this is in a way a more indirect way. You have to take it, it may go through your organism and so forth, whereas here we are so sensitive to light, and it appears to me that we are actually getting more and more sensitive to light. It's as if people are more and more waking up to the reality that we are actually beings of light. We are having a light body, and that's why I've been observing the past few years that doing treatments with light, both with the light of consciousness, with healing, with the flower essences, or in a laser, even though I don't do it very much, is getting more and more effective. Something is changing with us.
Yeah, fantastic. One thing I heard once that you could, if you have transferring, it also was in the article about transferring DNA from, if I saw David Wilcock, there was a guy, he was talking about this, if you have two eggs or something, you you can put a laser beam from a dinosaur egg to a chicken egg, and then the chicken gets some kind of dinosaur DNAs.
So that's then watch out, some dinosaurs are
Yes,
but I mean, I was referring there to these experiments of Luc Montagnier. He is a Nobel Prize winner, laureate, and he got the Nobel Prize for the HIV, for the AIDS virus discovery some years ago. And he's been researching a lot about the light and about electromagnetism. And this famous experiment that he has done, which has caused a lot of discussion in the scientific world, is to transfer, as you said, DNA from one place to another. So you have a bottle here, a vial with some DNA from bacteria. Here you have another bottle without any DNA from bacteria, and he then puts a beam. In the one experiment it's an electromagnetic wave, in the other experiment it's a laser light. He puts that through the vial, and lo and behold, after a while you find that DNA in that other vial. That's crazy. I mean, that challenges common belief in what is matter and
a little bit spooky.
Yes. Yes.
Another thing, you're talking about neon light and light from LED lights.
Yes.
I heard that they weren't so very healthy.
Yeah, and you can understand it out of that concept of the coherence of light, of the inner structure of light. As I said, the healthy background lighting for us is the sunlight. It has just the right wavelength that we're used to. It has our organism is totally tuned into the sunlight. Also the rhythms, by the way. You know, we wake up in the morning, and at sunrise we have the warm light, the red light, and then in the middle of the day we have the blue light. The blue light is waking us up. We get more intellectual in the middle of the day. We are more analytical. We can be very efficient with writing and thinking and so forth. And then comes the evening. We are getting a little more, a little tired, and a little more. You know, we need a drink, a tea at 5 o'clock, and we sitting at the fireplace in all the times. The light gets warm again. The sun goes down, and that warm light stimulates us to let go of the everyday thoughts and to get a little cozy, to get social, and eventually to prepare for sleeping. That is also has to do with the hormones. The melatonin production in the epiphysis, in the pineal gland, is being stimulated by the light. So we get that warm light in the evening, and the body understands, okay, it's getting warm light, so in 4 or 6 hours we are going to sleep. So it produces melatonin, which is the sleeping hormone, and at the same time also the detoxing hormone. So a good, healthy day rhythm means to go to bed in a way that you are able also to detox. Now, if we today sit at the computer until midnight, we are getting blue light, we are getting very aggressive light, and the melatonin production stops. So sleeping disorders, no detoxing, so we are just collecting the toxins in the body, and no good dreaming activity. We need the dreams also to digest all we've seen during the day, and there's no way we can do that. And that's even something that the American Physicians Association has said. They said it's the new epidemic. It's the sleeping disorders, mostly with youngsters and with the CEOs. And what do they have in common? They're looking at their smartphones and their tablets all the time. They're getting way too much blue light. So they are saying light pollution is the big issue of today, health-wise.
Okay, well, what is the pollution from LED lights and neon lights?
LED lights and neon lights are also blue lights.
Okay.
So they don't have that good mixture, the right frequencies, the right wavelengths that the daylight has, and that the traditional light bulb also has to a certain degree, and that a candlelight also has. They have more the warm colors. The daylight has, as I said, warm and bluish. But LED and neon lights, they have a very aggressive light. Also, it has the flickering. It's electronic made light, and that's a really radical difference.
What does it do with people?
Yeah, just one more sentence there. Everything that we have had until the last century in terms of light has been warm light, has been fire in a certain way. Also, a traditional light bulb is a fire, so to say. You have this, the electricity burns,
the
glowing, right? So it's a warmth process. And to our organism, light and warmth always go together. And now what are we doing here in the year 2018? We are proud that we have invented light that doesn't have warmth, right? And that is supposed to be energy saving. Yes, we're saving energy, but then we're freezing. Our soul is freezing and our body is freezing. There's some good experiments that show that people who are staying in LED or energy saving bulbs, neon lights, they turn up the heating because they're freezing, because the feeling is, this is not cozy, this is not warm light. So the energy saving is quite relative in that regard.
Well, that's interesting.
And also this question of the structure of the light. Some of these artificial lightings are also structured, but in a way that is not the structure that your body needs, because a computer screen also has structured light, because it is light that is carrying information. You have the pixels, you have the image. Now that is highly structured, and it kind of affects you, but not in this healing way that I was mentioning earlier with a laser or with a hand, but in a way that maybe is meaningful when you're looking at the content of your computer screen, but for your body it's not meaningful at all. It's totally nonsense information, and it's attacking your own body intelligence.
Wow. We have, the time is running away here. If you think these things are very interesting, we have this conference coming up 13th to 15th of May in look up Baldron's site.
And it's the International Light Association. We are just helping a little with that conference. It's the International Light Association, and it has a Nordic branch. That's the Nordic Light Association, which we co-founded some years ago. So that's at Fornebu in Oslo, a 3 days conference with a lot of international and some Norwegian contributions. Yes.
Anything?
Then we have the International Day of Light. That is something that we made in addition. The UNESCO has, for the first time now in 2018, established this International Day of Light. So it's in all countries in the world, basically. And we've taken the initiative to celebrate it in a special way here in Oslo. And what we want to do then is to bring together the science of the light and the inner experience of the light, and the esoteric part of the light and the material part of the light in one day. And there we have different things, but among others there's a seminar and a light lab at the House of Literature in Oslo with, among others, James Oshman, which I named, and many other people who are doing research on light quality. To give you an example, there's a researcher from Germany who has done tests in schools where children had normal light, incandescent light, and LED light. And he just interviewed the children, and he analyzed the drawings that the children did, and it turned out that the drawings were mostly incomplete in the LED light. The children wouldn't really finish the drawings, and the human beings, which in the one class with the normal light had like beautiful full body, legs and arms, and in the LED lighting room, they would just be parts. They would never complete a full human being. They would have much more mobbing. It would be so much less empathy for the fellow students, and so much less creativity and fantasy. So lighting has such an immense influence on our consciousness. And he's going to present that research there also. Or there's another researcher there who is a medical doctor, and he has researched the light in living food. And he trained himself to see the light from living food. And he's presenting the drawings where you can see how different food qualities show in the light, and also how the light can change that quality. For example, he has a drawing of very good biodynamic milk, untreated, not pasteurized, wonderful aura around that milk, and then that milk gets exposed to LED lighting, and it's totally crushed. That quality, that food quality, gets really destroyed from bad lighting.
Is that a little bit the same as the micro oven?
Yes, in a way. The microwave oven goes even more into the matter. This comes more from the outside, but it is similar in that it has a very, so to say, anti-life effect. And for example, health food stores should know that, because they're buying these wonderful foods, and then they're exposing them to bad light, and sometimes they even have observed it, that the food doesn't stay so well, or that the taste changes when it has LED light. We have some experiences about that already, but it needs to be more known.
I hope people, if you're still looking, this is maybe the most interesting or important. We have to cut off now, but
yes.
Have we talked about most of the things you wanted to talk about with light?
Maybe one thing you asked me before about the near-death experiences.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just say that. So what do you think, when in your life do you have the most light? Do you emit the most light?
Yeah. You told me. It was when you're born and when you die.
Yes.
Yes.
And isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
I mean, isn't that beautiful that in the moment of death we are radiating, we are exploding in light, and people have seen that, and it can also be measured in terms of the biophoton. But isn't that also beautiful that the light that we all the time are having in our cells and around our body is relatively modest in everyday life, because we are not meant to be just shining away our light, because the light is needed. The light is the intelligence that steers and structures our bodily functions. So we need it there. The question is not more light, ever more light. You know, there's some new age people also who seem to be kind of junkies of light. That's not the point. The point is the harmony of the light, and to let the light do its job. And if we can be a little bit more sensitive with the light that we have around us, the lighting systems we are using, the computer screens and so forth, then we can help that body intelligence within ourselves, the light in our bodies and the light in our consciousness.
Very good. We could talk all night, I think, about these things, but time is flying. I also want to mark it. We're going to have one more interview with Raphael that's coming after this one. Then we're going to talk about the spiritual ecology. And that's about elves and people living outside that we can't see. Nature spirits, angels working for us in the nature. And they have also been doing lots of interesting scientific experiments with these things, and you can more explain this in a scientific way. Isn't it so? So that's if you feel that's interesting, you can find the next interview about spiritual ecology. Okay, I'll just say thank you very much for this interview.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If I will